welcome to my podcast. I'm here with my friend Nick, and he's been my longtime friend since we were in undergrad. We did philosophy together. He got me into rock climbing, and he's just overall been there through some really hard times, and I think he's someone that's very inspiring. So with that said, here is Nick.
Hello. That's a heck of an introduction. This is my first time being interviewed like this, so I'm not really sure what to say, I guess. Just gonna kind of wing it and go from the heart. See what comes up with the conversation. But thank you for having me.
Okay.
It's been fun setting up for this.
It's been fun, yeah. We moved the plan so that we have some more green for you guys. We want to give you guys some nature shots.
I want to make sure it's as visually appealing as possible.
Okay, so Nick, so I did touch on the topic of you doing rock climbing, bouldering, and all that. So tell us, how did you get into that?
I got into it kind of by accident almost. We grew up here in Las Cruces, New Mexico, which, if anyone doesn't know, has the Organ Mountains like just right there. It's a 15-minute drive for most people, and also for most people around here, it's just kind of scenic background. Not a lot of people hike, especially back when I was a kid. It was just kind of more like a pretty photo, something you would paint. But my junior year of high school, I made a friend who was just getting out there all the time, wild, rambunctious, kind of did a lot to pull me out of my shell. And that was when I started to just get up on the rocks and get out there in the mountains. I set a goal for myself to go get on the tallest peak that's up there in the mountains, and finally did that. And now here I am. I've been up there like a dozen times since then, and it feels like something that I'm comfortable guiding people with.
So I actually ended up going out into nature and bouldering because he got me started. And this was in the midst of COVID during the pandemic when we were all locked in. And I remember reaching out to Nick and just telling him, like, I need some outdoor time, like I need to go outside and connect with nature. Like, I'm just really feeling like really claustrophobic in that time where I was just not getting out of the house. And so I reached out to him and he said, well, get with one of our common friends, mutual friends, Ileana. And so she was the one that actually got me started on the rocks. But what lessons would you say nature and the rocks have actually taught you?
A lot. And it's, a funny story the way that we all kind of connected and got together and to form this little like rock climbing group. Because Ileana had been my friend since like high school, and we kind of got into it together with the same group of friends there. And I had moved out to Dallas, and we were connecting more virtually at the time, and knew that the two of you would hit it off like so well. And one of my favorite things in life is just when my friends become friends with my other friends from a different friend group. It's like that networking. I love it. I was excited to get you guys together. But I mean, that's kind of another one of the foundational things that rock climbing teaches is community and like camaraderie, and it's, the type of thing that you really shouldn't be doing by yourself, especially at the beginning, because
it's dangerous.
Inherently dangerous. And the key component when you're climbing with a rope is that there's a climber and there's the belayer. You have two people.
It's a lot of trust.
It's a lot.
If you have trust issues, maybe this is good therapy for you guys. That's terrible. No, it is. It's helped me build so much trust.
It is a great way to exercise, because that's what it is too. It's a way to safely exercise building trust. It's a way to safely exercise keeping your head cool in high pressure situations. It's a way to safely exercise like your body. It's so much more of a mental exercise before it's anything physical. That's another thing rock climbing brings to me and others is there's the community aspect, there's the mental and physical benefits that you get from challenging yourself, from realizing that you're a lot stronger and more capable and more courageous than you might think.
I'm gonna cry.
And that's probably the third most important lesson that it teaches is it allows people to safely practice and develop being courageous. Because I think there's an idea that people either are or aren't brave or courageous, but I think it's really something that just takes practice. Like almost everything else in life, just the more you do it, the more comfortable you feel doing it. And the quicker you are to fall into that, and the more this practice is consciously performed, the more it becomes a habit. And then as it becomes a habit, now you don't have to think about it as consciously. And that's where we see people who seem to just courageously walk through life. It's because I think, well, they've practiced it so much that they're at the point where it's a habit that they don't have to think about.
Yeah, I think what you're talking on, for me, it makes sense. Like, they're comfortable in being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like, they're just like, okay, like, I gotta figure this out, and they're so comfortable in like figuring it out that they're not fazed by it. Yeah.
Yeah, because like something I realized just recently was, so like I'm working at a gym in El Paso where we do bouldering, we do top roping, we have auto blaze, like we're a full service rock climbing facility, which is something El Paso has needed forever.
I agree.
And as I'm doing lessons with kids, with adults, with like everybody, I mean, trust is the first thing that people like learn. The first thing that they kind of have to get comfortable with is trusting their harness and the rope. So I mean, the first thing I'll do is have people just take a small fall, like just get on the wall and then just learn to trust your equipment.
Oh my gosh.
Like with you're right here and you're right here, like no distance.
Yeah.
Because I think a common misconception is people are like, I gotta get all the way up there and then I gotta trust everything. It's like, well no, like you can start small, like start at the bottom and then trust it, and then that's how we gradually improve, and that's how rock climbing is, in my opinion, the sport for everybody. Because it doesn't matter where your start is, as long as you're just pushing for improvement from wherever you start.
Yeah.
That's the way that you succeed in rock climbing.
Yeah, I think that's a really good metaphor for life, because I think you have to take small steps into trusting yourself. And so for me, I was like, okay, I can trust myself to show up and just go on that hike. And maybe I'm not gonna attempt to boulder that day, but I'm gonna go out there and see what it looks like. And then next time maybe I'll go on the rock, and then next time I'll go like maybe 2 steps into the rock, and the next time it became like farther and farther. And I remember it was a Smith boulder, and I could not get over that boulder, and eventually after 3 times of going out there I eventually did. But it was trial and error, and it was the same thing for life. It's like, it's okay, maybe not this time, but next time. And then it just became about trusting myself, and then trusting myself to keep showing up, and then that just translated over into my life. And it's like, okay, maybe not this time, but maybe next time.
Yeah, and I mean that has a lot to do with the fact that, like, one thing I like to talk about is that experience is never lost, really. And I mean, the first time you do anything new, the first time is all about like just taking in everything, just keeping your eyes open and soaking it in like a sponge. I mean, the first time a person goes out there to the rocks, it's their first time and their head is full of all the preconceived notions, and they're just there, they're just excited to be there, and that's how it should be, you know? We're not focusing too much on trying to achieve a specific goal. We're just focusing on getting out there. And then, okay, now it's our second time out there. Like, you know what the parking lot looks like, you know what it feels like to hike with stuff on your back. So now the focus is moving a little bit more to like the goals that we have ahead of us, the specific like rocks that we're gonna climb, the grades, and that's where we get a little bit more specific with the challenges. And like to your point, it's the same way with life, because you know, like I just got into this new job. That's another good example, because my first month I was just like wide-eyed, like trying to take everything in and just learning as much as possible. And now that I'm further into it, now I'm more like, okay, I know what it feels like to be in that position, and that's not the experience that I'm focusing on as much. The experience that I'm focusing on now is more the specific goals, the like the processes and programs that I want to implement. So it's like, no matter what your arena in life is, I think it's important to remember that even if it feels like you're backtracking or not, you know, hitting the goals that you wanted to hit, like early in the game especially, like the experiences that you're gaining just by being there matter. And even if you can't feel it, like it's gonna add up the more you do it.
Okay, so how has the great outdoors or bouldering or rope climbing, how has that helped you throughout your life, like during hard times or good times? Because I feel like I've been in both, where I was going through a hard time, like I was out there in the rocks, and then I was going through a really good time when I was out there with friends and I was out there in the rocks. But how has that helped you?
I mean, it's hard to encapsulate really, because at this point now I've spent a lot of time outdoors, both like with other people and by myself. And I think it kind of ties into, you know, kind of what your goals are. I think that's another thing that I like to talk about is like, well, okay, what's the goal here? I mean, if I'm trying to have a good time, if I want to go out with friends and, you know, we're all going to party, we're all just going to, you know, it's someone's birthday, we're going to just bring a piñata and like have fun, then, you know, then that's the focus, that's the goal. Like I'm just making sure I'm bringing my speaker, I'm making sure I'm bringing my costumes. You know, I kind of like to have lists and things so that I can try to
Meet that occasion?
You know, just make the occasion as good as it can be.
Yeah.
And then on the other hand, if I'm in a place where like I know I have a lot of heavy stuff to work on and I'm feeling a little bit like prickly around other people, then that's my like check engine light, and that's like for me, okay, I need to go get out there by myself, find some space, do some work with, you know, other people, working on some like hard internal things. But I mean, for me, the outdoors is like an arena to really just find what's inside of yourself, because if you're there by yourself, I mean, it's just you in the big open world, and like you hear your thoughts louder than anywhere else. Yeah,
I feel like for me it's the other way around, where I feel a lot better when I leave, because I feel like for me it's about disconnecting. All the time I do service out there, and a lot of the time I am recording and taking pictures, and it is really nice because I am disconnected and I am in nature, and I kind of get to explore the colors of the leaves and the water and the smell and the texture and the laughter. And for me it's about disconnecting but also connecting, because I feel more connected with the people that I'm there with, but I also feel like I get to take a break from email and notifications and social media and people calling me, or like, where are you at, what are you doing? And it's like nobody really knows where I'm at until I'm done. And like, to me, that's what makes it so worth it. It's just like, it feels like a piece of like, just peace, like a deep inhale and exhale all in one, and then I leave and I feel so much better.
Yeah, well, it's also like that specifically, I think, is like you are validating yourself. Like, you're giving yourself permission to do the things that you want to do, because that's good enough. Yeah. And I mean, that's been a big thing for me when I take like big solo trips. Like, I want to like prove to myself that I can survive out there by myself. And I also want to, you know, give myself permission to do things like that really just fulfill me and I grow from. And I think a lot of us fall into patterns of, you know, comfort and kind of taking whatever the easiest route is. And it's just important to remember that you need to like challenge yourself every now and then, because that's where the growth happens.
That is where the growth happens.
And like the outdoors specifically is also where I develop a lot of trust in myself. That's where I learned that I can handle myself out there. I can handle emergency situations. Like if something, you know, goes good, it's because, you know, I did my best. If something goes bad, it's because, well, I should have been better prepared. Yeah. And I learned from it.
I actually never thought about that, just because I have so much trust in you and like who is out there. So I'm like, oh, I'm good. But I've actually not felt that way, where I'm like, I actually don't know what I would do. I just rely on you guys. So I think that's something I need to work on. But I also feel really good because I can trust you guys, and that's where that trust comes in, where it's like, I may not know what to do yet, but I trust you guys enough to be out there. Yeah. Because otherwise I wouldn't. I'd be like, no, my phone doesn't work out here. Who am I gonna call? Yeah. Oh no. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, man. And again, that trust is key. Like whether you're like climbing on the rope, like getting way up there, or whether you're just pitching a tent and like hanging out in the campsite, like if there's not that trust that like the group doesn't know what they're doing or you don't know what you're doing, it's going to be a really scary experience. Yeah.
So any closing thoughts from this session just about rock climbing, why everyone should do it? I feel like that's a really good one. Why should everybody rock climb? Like, what is out there that you're like, everybody should experience this, or everybody should experience this feeling? Like, what is something that you have had or experienced that you're like, everyone should have this?
Everybody should rock climb, because nearly anybody can rock climb. Like, the first rebuttal I hear from people is, oh, I'm not strong enough, or I'm not brave enough. So to the first point, you are strong enough. I mean, we have adaptive climbing. There's a whole Paralympic sport.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
that's cool.
People with prosthetics, people who are wheelchair bound, blind, different, you know, neurophysiological disabled people. Okay. If you're on a rope especially, there's ways that anybody can climb. I mean, there's videos out there of people who are missing their lower half of their body, who are literally using their arms to climb indoors and outdoors.
Whoa.
Or vice versa, there's always a way to rig it to where you can ascend. And there's always a way to get your body up. Like, that's kind of the first thing I want to break out of people's mind. It's like, it's not always Sylvester Stallone in Cliffhanger. Like,
yeah, okay.
dramatic.
That's good.
Like,
yeah, that
there's
movie.
almost always a way to get your body to move up. And then the second point, I'm not brave enough. That's really now we're moving in the right direction, because the main thing that rock climbing benefits people is, like I said before, that practice in being courageous, that practice in accepting challenges, that practice in accepting where you are and where you can go. I mean, it's not about being the strongest climber in the room. It's just about doing better than you did last time. And I think rock climbing just is such a great arena for anybody to come from wherever they're at and start to improve.
Wow, that was beautiful. Wow, well, thank you so much for that interview.